Hello guys, so today we're gonna dive deep into a narcissistic rage, and we're gonna try to see how this takes place and what we can actually do about this. Usually the narcissistic rage takes place in the form of like an extreme aggression and in the form of like screaming, shouting, that sometimes flow into violence too. Um, so let's try to understand why the narcissistic rage takes place. Usually, this happens after a narcissistic injury. So the narcissistic injury, as we know, is a type of like wound that narcissistic people can perceive on their ego, and their ego, obviously we know that it's a false sense of self that they have created for them, and once the ego is being hurt on some level, this will definitely, most probably, will trigger a narcissistic injury. So if you go up with the narcissistic rage, so this is a situation that will definitely leave you scared, shocked, confused, helpless, and it's a terrible experience actually. And it will leave you confused also, because basically you will not be able to understand this type of irrational rage and anger towards you, um, because it will seem to you out of proportion to the apparent reason for why the narcissist could be angry to you. And there are obviously different ways that there are obviously different ways that you can in how you can handle this type of situations. And despite the fact that being in a situation like this, it's quite difficult and it's not like a very good situation to be into, the first way probably to do this is not to escalate this situation, not to challenge the narcissist, not to argue with them, not to fight back with them on the same tune. So these are all things that will only escalate the situation, and the situation will only get worse. And so this is one of the ways that you can at least try to not make the situation worse. Let's try how you can let's see how you can try to diffuse this type of situation. So the approach in this is that you need to be as calm as possible, and do not letting the narcissistic rage, which is a storm on some level, affect you. So not getting carried by this storm, by this negative emotions of this narcissistic person, and try to detach yourself as much as possible and not take this stuff personally, but see that is more, this is something more related to them than to you. So it has nothing to do with you actually, it's all related to them. And in this way definitely you will detach yourself, and also you will kind of like diffuse the narcissist. So it will kind of like, after a little bit, after obviously this is relative to a situation, but definitely the narcissist after a little bit will calm down. And in order to do this, obviously this requires a lot of patience, a lot of inner work, and it is not always easy to do so, because the anger of the narcissist, if you are into that type of situations, is so intense and is so directed to your inner core, that is quite difficult to stay like indifferent in that situation. It's quite difficult, they make you freak you out, and that's what I actually want as well, because scaring you, it's if this rage, it's scaring you, is affecting you in some level, obviously this is another form of abuse as well that they use. And so the last option, the probably one of the most obvious one, is the fact that you can try to actually remove yourself from the situation, to remove yourself physically from the situation, especially if you start feeling like you're not safe around them. And the best thing probably you can do in that occasion, in that situation, is just to remove yourself physically from the narcissist. And also in that case, you have to be mindful and very careful also when you're removing yourself from the situation, because they might gonna try to stop you on some level, and that is another thing that can happen as well. So you need to be mindful and carefully try to remove yourself from that situation physically, which is the most beneficial thing for you if you start not to feel safe anymore around this person. When this person obviously starts to be more aggressive, I don't know if probably the narcissistic person is slamming doors, is throwing things away or stuff like that, so that is definitely the best option. And so today we just had a panoramic of the narcissistic rage on an overall view, and say this, I will see you next time. Obviously stay safe, stay tuned, and wish you all the best.